And in math, like, you feel like you don't.
And then, like, I get frustrated myself, and then, like, I think some of the students think I'm frustrated with them, and, I mean, I've found this particularly true in tutoring, where, like, I keep these kids after school and make them work really hard, but I don't know how much progress they're actually making, because I don't know, like, 15 different ways to help kids who don't understand multiplication to understand.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, I guess that's still, like, makes me think, though, I mean, even thinking about yourself, like, like, you have, like, a passion for, like, reading, writing, and that kind of thing. Like, where did that come from, and why is that there? You know what I mean? Because I think that we still trying to figure out, like, what those things are that excite you about reading, writing, and, like, figuring out a way that we can, like...
I mean, I love reading and writing because in 6th grade was when I became passionate about writing, because, like, in middle school, like, I had basically, like, friends all, like, abandoned me from elementary, and so, like, all I had was my imagination, and so I kind of lived there and put everything on paper, and I had a lot of really great teachers who encouraged me to write and continue writing and reading. So I guess for me a lot of it comes down to those factors. I would say specifically 6th grade, and those teachers who really encouraged me. That imagination, I would say, is what it comes down to.
What about, like, now?
Like what?
Like, why? I mean, why are you still...
Why am I still passionate about it?
Why are you passionate about that for your kids?
Creative expression. Saying things in new ways, or that reveal your own feelings to you in ways you didn't even realize.
Yeah. I mean, I like, what I'm going to say probably sounds like a stretch too, but I mean, they obviously look very different, but I actually think in a lot of ways, like, you know, reading and writing is about, like, saying things in different ways, like, communicating, and things like that, and like the best math teachers I've seen, like, K-12, what they believe is that, like, math is, like, another way of communicating with the world. Like, they see how, like, you know, like, writing, you know, writing explains the world, like, makes people happy, makes people sad, like, all these things, and, like, the fact, I mean, it depends on your perspective, I guess, but, like, math, it does that in, like, a different way, you know, and so, like, you know, writing tells stories, and, like, math or information numbers, like, do something similar, except, like, unfortunately, the way that, you know, math usually is taught is, like, you know, identify this stuff in, like, in a vacuum, kind of, you know, without any context to it. It just makes me kind of think that, like, because, like, I mean, I agree with you, I think, like, there are, like, you know, strategies and things like that would help, like, kind of technical strategies, and I have a couple in my mind that I think would help you out, but I also think it's just, like, you know, whenever I hear somebody say, like, oh, like, I don't like math, or, like, math isn't my thing, like, which is what I probably would have said if I was a core member teaching math, but I was lucky and I wasn't. Like, that's like the first thing we have to talk about, because otherwise, if that's, like, how you actually think and feel, then, like, implicitly and explicitly, that's just going to be kind of coming out. You know what I mean? Like, with your students. And that's why I think a lot of, you know, people grow up, like, not loving math and not seeing, like, the value of math, that kind of thing. I mean, I don't know, like, what does that make you think?
No, I agree. I try really hard to try to convince myself and my kids that I'm excited about math.
What do you ask you is why math? Why is math important?
I mean, basically, if you want to do anything in the sciences, like math is foundational. Science there. But it's also foundational to everyday things like money and time and gas mileage. And if you struggle with those kinds of things, you're going to get duped in life, out of money, you'll get able to identify the gas mileage of something's wrong with your car. Be late.
Okay,
You won't be able to tell what time it will be in Pine Ridge when we're supposed to be at Alcoa.
That happened here?
No.
Like, I don't know that happened. I mean, like, I think these are all right things, but like, I'm also just sensing from your tone that it's like, well, it's just in time, that it's just math. It's like, everybody knows that. And but like, I'm not, like, I'm not saying like I want to hear like, you know, like this passionate thing about math, but like, what it also kind of makes me think, like, to be frank, is that like the amount of time that you maybe spend thinking like, okay, this is what you have to teach today. Why?
Oh.
I'm not actually asking you right now, but like thinking about like today for my students and what am I going to tell them when they say, why do we have to do this? And then my guess is maybe you've had that question and you're like, well, because we have to do something. Because you need it for math and science careers, which is like super duper abstract. And yeah, like my guess is that you probably plan this without like thinking a ton about like, all right, like why are we doing this?
I mean, the reason I did that is this was a new approach that I was trying to take to like another conceptual way to understand place value, like putting it on a number line. I tried like greater than and less than symbols. And I think now actually, as I'm looking through this, like it might have been. But then there's the question of why do you need to know place value? Because you need to read numbers. Why do you need to read numbers? Because they're everywhere.
Right, and like I mean that's not an incorrect answer. You know what I mean? But like when I think about if I'm a sixth grader, I'm sitting in your class, and you're like numbers everywhere. Like even if I'm like what's my good son's name?
Josh.
Yeah. I'm here like I'm a good kid. I like do what you. I mean I think for the most part like do what you say. Like,
always.
And like I think like if he thinks that I have to do math because numbers are everywhere because you know something kind of abstract. I'm learning this because like I'm gonna need it later. Like that's great for now, but like is that gonna be sustainable for him? Like is that gonna like change his attitude about like?
I mean everything I do is tied to that, but I guess that is very general, but still.
And it's like hard to reach that. I mean, even if it is more specific, it's something like that is, you know, 8 years away.
Well, no, I mean it's very more so than like the star is the next step, middle school.
Okay.
Like,
okay. Yeah.
You're going to be expected to know this in middle school, and I'm trying to help you to make sure that we understand this.
Yeah.
Today we had a talk about working together and not fighting each other.
Yeah.
But I have thought up the wazoo about how to get myself passionate about math, and I often hit walls.
I think there's kind of two approaches for like, especially for like non-math people. Like, I mean, I would put myself in that camp, truthfully. There's like the camp of like figuring out like how, maybe not every day, but on a regular basis, like what does this actually have to, like, if kids are like, oh, it has to do with money, like, no, like, what is the situation, what is the problem that, like, knowing this will help you from getting duped? Like, actually figuring that out and, like, sharing that with kids in some way. Whether it's a word problem, whether it's just, like, starting off your math lesson with a story with a couple numbers in it, which, you know, might appeal to the reading, writing side of things. Like, I've seen that's what Jonathan does, anyways. Santos Silva, he just talks, tells stories about, like, time and he's not, and kids are like, oh, and then they kind of fall into the lesson. So there's, like, that. And then there's also the people that that get their students and get themselves invested in math almost for math's sake. And what I mean by that is teachers and students that are, like, invested in, like, the data of math. So, like, we have, like, these are, like, the learning goals, like, the standards that we have to meet, and, like, we're gonna use, like, everything we do is in service of, like, achieving those things, and, like, whether it's every day or every week, like, keeping track individually as a class of, like, where you are against those goals. Like, Cyber last year, that's where he had, like, a wall in his room somewhere that just had every math standard, like, on a piece of little strip of paper, and, like, once they mastered it, it would go into, like, the for him it would be 8th grade, ready for 8th grade side of the wall. And the kids tracked it themselves every week, tracked the class every week. You put the exact numbers up there, like, if it was 79.7, like, that wasn't good enough. That would stay there, then they'd be reassessed on it the next week, or, you know, however, whenever he retaught it, so that until they got it over there. And just, like, really becoming driven, like, in the math, like, almost math for math's sake, because it's, like, it tells you how I'm doing, it's, like, how I know that I'm learning every day. That's what Tara did with her science. Like, she asked you why her kid cared about science, and she would tell you immediately because of, like, the way she invested them in, like, the numbers or, like, their own progress with math. I don't know what that makes you think. An opinion, again. Or you just like, Dennis, you're just talking silly right now.
No, I'm just.
I mean, if you do think that, like, please tell me.
I just don't know what that would look like from the class, like.
Mm-hmm. Which one? Which side?
Any of those.
Yeah.
Trackers. I don't know.
I mean, I think, like, the first one, like, the story side of things, or, like, the specific problem, I think it's honestly a matter of every day, like, even if it's, like, nitpicky and, like, specific and, like, not, like, replicable on, like, a super large scale, like, you know, given out, like, what is, like, the concrete situation or scenario that's, like, close enough to the kids, like, whether it's, like, buying pop at B&B or something, or helping their mom do something, like, their grade or something, like, what is it, like, the situation that will make that, like, meaningful to them?
Yeah.
And not just, like, the word problem, not just, like, you're gonna need this so you don't get ripped off, like, no, like, I go into B&B, and they don't have any nickels there, so they said they're gonna give me, like, all this blah, 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 blah. Here's how I solve that problem. This is why I need to know this, so I don't accidentally get the wrong change when I buy my, 12th bag of hot Cheetos that day, or something like that. And just, like, really making sure that that's, like, central to everything. The other way, I think it's just a matter of making sure that students know, like, how this concept is building to, like, a knowledge of something else. Even if it's, like, you put, like, the problem that they're going to be able to do at the end of the week, like, whatever it is, like, they will be able to identify this to solve this problem, like, that they know what that is, and, like, they'll be able to see, at least, like, implicitly, and definitely with you explaining, how doing this is imperative for them to be able to do that. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so, like, I mean, if you do, like, the standards thing, like, where you kind of post up, I mean, I think that's like kind of a different